Hello, welcome to Dungeoneer's Pack, a channel bringing you player-focused discussions and character guides for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. My name is Josh, thank you for watching. The Soulknife Rogue puts psionics in the hands of players, allowing them to manifest their mental power into psychic blades. In this video, I'm going to take a look at the Soulknife Rogue's key features, discuss ways you can use the theme of the subclass to develop your character, provide some ways you can reflavor the subclass, and give you some ideas on how you can play the Soulknife Rogue in the official 5th edition settings. With that said, let's get started. The Soulknife has two psionic features from the start that lets players immediately play the subclass character fantasy. Just like the Psi Warrior, the psionic power feature uses the psionic energy die mechanic to fuel the Soulknife's various abilities. It functions identically to the feature seen in the Psi Warrior Fighter subclass. If you want to check out the Psi Warrior, I provided a link to my video covering the subclass in the description below, or you can click on the icon in the corner. Psionic power will give us a number of psionic energy die equal to our proficiency bonus, which recharges after a long rest. We can spend them on the Psi-Bolster Knack and Psychic Whispers abilities. Psi-Bolster Knack gives the rogue a blessed-like failsafe for any failed skill or tool check they make if they were proficient with that skill or tool. If they were to fail that skill or tool check, they can roll the psionic energy die and add the result to the roll. Psychic Whispers is a second ability that gives rogues a powered-up variant of the message cantrip. As an action, we can roll the psionic energy die and can telepathically communicate to some of our allies a number of hours equal to the number rolled. The number of creatures we can communicate with when we use this ability is equal to our proficiency bonus. Both of the abilities in the psionic power feature give a small boost to the rogue's utility. Psi-Bolster Knack ensures the rogue doesn't fail at any skills it's already good at doing. The combination of Psi-Bolster Knack and expertise makes me feel bad for the dungeon masters out there. Psi Whispers is my favorite ability from this feature. It gives the rogue something new but familiar to players and makes the player feel like a telepath. A huge difference from the psionic abilities in this feature compared to the Psi Warriors is that these abilities can be used for free under certain conditions, while the Psi Warrior's abilities use their psionic energy die regardless if they succeed or fail. Psi-Bolster Knack only expends a Psi die if the skill or tool check succeeds. There is no penalty if the roll fails. Psi Whispers has one free initial use, but then expends your Psi die for every use after that. The second key feature for this subclass is Psychic Blades. Psychic Blades turns your character into Psylocke from the X-Men. Whenever we take the attack action, we can summon a Psychic Blade in our free hand. The blade is a simple melee weapon with the finesse and thrown properties. It can be thrown up to a maximum of 60 feet and deals 1d6 psychic damage plus our ability modifier we use to calculate damage. This leaves it open for us to build a character using strength or dexterity. We can also make a second attack with another psionic blade as a bonus action if our second hand is also free. The damage die for this attack is 1d4. This feature can let the rogue take a more aggressive role in combat, but it will put them at the risk of taking damage if they stay in melee range. While the bonus action attack can add a little bit of damage, it does cause conflict with cunning action. The psychic blades appear to be balanced and take into consideration sneak attack damage, as they do not get any other damage boost as we progress into the subclass. In the earlier levels, this does get around magic resistance, making it a step ahead of most non-magical weapons. It is no secret that the theme for this subclass is psionics. Psionics in D&D bridges the gap between fantasy and science fiction. Ultimately, it is an internal power that requires dedicated training to harness and master. It is fairly common for creatures or intelligent beings to have psionics if they are connected to the far realms or outer planes in typical D&D high fantasy settings. For some settings, psionics is a power that is part of the identity for lineages like the Kalishtar and Eberron, or is an expression of magic used by factions like House Demir and Ravnica. Either way, as I mentioned, psionics is an internal power that takes time to develop. When creating your character with this subclass in mind, think about the intense training your character underwent to develop these abilities. If your character was taught by a teacher or in a monastery, consider using the Acolyte or Sage backgrounds. If psionics is a natural ability due to your lineage, your best bet will be to use the Githyanki, or if suitable for your setting, the Kalishtar. To reinforce the psionic flavor, consider using the telekinetic feat. To reflavor this subclass, it is pretty straightforward. Psionics is a form of energy, so we can change the flavor of this subclass by changing the source of energy. We can change our psionic powers into dark energy from the Shadowfell. Instead of manifesting a psionic blade, we create a weapon made of shadow similar to the Shadow Blade spell. The character could be a denizen of the Shadowfell, or from one of the demiplanes of dread that has found themselves stranded in the Primaterial Plane. They could serve the Raven Queen and have been sent out to capture those who attempt to escape death, or maybe they serve one of the Dark Lords and have been set to expand their reach beyond their demiplane. Consider using the Shatterkai, Reborn, Hexblood, or Dhampir lineages and the Shadow Touch feat. Another way to reflavor the subclass will be to change the psionic energy to an elemental one. Having an elemental source opens up two possible options that result in the same effect. The source of our elemental power could be from a genie or a dragon. Both sources could be used as a powerful patron or influence our character's ancestry. With the DM's permission, change the energy type of the psionic blade to match the energy type associated with the chosen genie or dragon. To play up the ancestries, consider playing as a genasi if you want to use the genie as a source of elemental power, or play as a dragonborn if you want to use a dragon as the source of elemental power. Now let's take a look at how we can play the Soulknife Rogue in the official 5th edition settings. In Forgotten Realms, we could be a Githzerai warrior who has been trained to hunt mind flayers in the Githyanki. In Eberron, we could be a Kalishtar refugee that seeks to overthrow the dictatorship in Riedra. In Ravnica, we could be a Dimir assassin who is trained to extract the memories of their targets. And finally in Theros, we could be a thief and follower of the god Fenax who seeks to pull off a grand heist to gain the god's favor. The Soulknife Rogue accomplishes the goal of putting psionics in the hands of players in 5th edition. In comparison to the Psi Warrior Fighter, the Soulknife is a much more exciting psionic subclass, but none of the features are surprising. During testing, the Soulknife was first meant to be a monk subclass, and part of me feels that this should still be the case. Psionics requires training to develop, and that fits perfectly with the monk character fantasy. In 5th edition, the Soulknife is more of a psychic powered assassin instead of a psionic martial artist. This character fantasy is prominent with the Dimir Guild in the Ravnica setting. The Soulknife has evocative visuals that will make a player think that this subclass is geared towards melee combat, but a ranged build is a viable option. My only issue with this subclass is that it feels like the psionic system is just layered on top of the rogue class toolkit instead of being integrated. The Sideblade is the star of the show, and while they made changes to make it usable with the rogue sneak attack ability, that is where the integration of the feature stops. Even though the features don't feel integrated, it doesn't overload the player with too much mechanical complexity. The Soulknife gives the rogue player a solid alternative weapon with some flavorful features, while still being able to utilize the rogue strong toolkit. With that said, I want to hear from you. What do you think of the Soulknife Rogue? Let me know down in the comments section. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, and if you want to see more content like this, I drop a video every week, so go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're looking to play a rogue with a necromantic spin, check out my video on the Phantom Rogue. You can click on the video on the screen to see the new features the subclass can bring to your table, and how you can fit it into the official 5th edition settings. Alright, I'm out of here, have a good one.